Hey, hello everyone. This is Mark Ernstman from Coras. Thank you for joining us today for our webcast on building powerful enterprise applications for SharePoint and Office 365. I'm joined today by Mack Sigman. Mack is our Director of Professional Services here at Coras and also is fairly well known, at least here in the Washington, D.C. metro area, for his work and involvement within the SharePoint space. So we are very happy to have Mack along with us for the next hour or so. Before we get started, I'd just like to couple housekeeping items. One regards the size of your screen. There's the ability in the GoToWebinar interface, your panel, to adjust your screen size. So as we're going through a few slides and the demonstration, please feel free to manipulate that size so you can see everything that Mack is doing without having to scroll up or down, sideways, whatever the case. The second point is regarding questions. Also within your GoToWebinar panel, you have the ability to type in questions. As we're going through the presentation, please feel free to type in questions at any point. I will be monitoring those questions on this side. Some I may answer as they come in. Others I may hold for the benefit of the crowd, and we'll try to reserve a few minutes at the end of the presentation today to go through some of those questions. So again, at any point during the presentation, you can type those questions in, and we'll field them as they come. All right, that's our housekeeping. Without any further delay, I am happy to introduce Mr. Mack Sigman. And Mack, please take us the rest of the way.
Thank you, sir, and for all the attendees, thank you for joining us this afternoon for our presentation on building enterprise apps for SharePoint and Office 365. I recognize a lot of the folks in the attendee list. Thank you for joining. For those that have been members of my user group, you may have seen some of this in the past, or a lot will look familiar. But let's jump right into it. And of course, my clicker has died. So with the agenda, we're going to look at real quick, who is Coras, or what is Coras, then who am I, and then we're going to create a scenario and walk through how we solve this. So we'll set the stage with what problem is it that we're trying to solve? What does this look like? How does it run? Where does it run? How is it built? And then we'll finish this off with coming through and looking at how does this solve the problem. We'll recap and do next steps and questions and so forth. So who is Coras, or what is Coras? If you've been doing SharePoint for a long time, you will remember back in the early days of 2003, 2007, it was CorasWorks. That launched in 2003. It was one of the earliest and is one of the oldest SharePoint admins. That was based primarily on a lot of create your own web parts, roll-ups, content aggregation, came in with the actions framework down the road. But it could be thought of as a rapid application development platform for low-code or no-code solutions. They did over 500 projects across 200 customers and consistently showed that they could deliver enterprise solutions 80% faster than traditional pure development. But as they were doing that, there were a lot of common solutions started popping up that kept getting asked for, things like help desk and so forth, and most often PMO solutions. So those were incorporated into the product set. 2013, Microsoft moves to the cloud. This is the launch of Office 365, which for those in the SharePoint space, we know that was a pretty radical change. Everything we knew from development and custom solutions changed. Full Trust Solutions went away. You had to do the app model or something that nobody understood, which was provider-hosted applications, and so forth. In 2016, CorasNow launched. CorasNow is the Coras cloud-based platform for rapid application development. And then that was further improved with Coras Manage, which is built on CorasNow, includes the PMO solution and the other capability, and that gets us up to where we are today. Just a quick sample of some of the customers we work with and have worked with over the years. We're well represented in the commercial space as well as the federal and Department of Defense. For those that are coming in from DoD or federal, you'll see we're pretty well represented across that space. And so the question that always comes up, do you have a certificate of networthiness? Has anybody done a CNA or an ASP for your product? The answer is yes. So security and accreditation is a lot faster. There's 3 core products in the Coras suite. Coras Manage is our project and portfolio management solution. CorasNow, which is what you will be seeing today, is our business management application platform that allows for rapid application development. It's delivered as a software as a service, and again, can accelerate your delivery cost or delivery time by 75%. Much, much faster. And then for those that have been in the SharePoint world for a long time, CorasWorks is still there. It's on version 11, which includes the application platform. So who am I? I'm the Director of Professional Services here at Coras. I've been here for, I think, 17 days. So be gentle. But I've been doing SharePoint for what now seems like forever. I started in 1998 when it showed up as Team Sites and Project Web Access. And then about 2003, I went completely just SharePoint collaboration platforms. I've worked with several of the local firms, built the SharePoint practices at a number of the smaller companies and a couple of the larger ones, including CSC, Avanade, Accenture Federal. But more important than that, not only, I spent approximately the last 14 years as a customer of CorasWorks. It has been one of my consistent go-to tools for delivering solutions to customer, whether that's Marine Corps, FEMA, NCIS, several others. So I work here now, but I've also been a customer of it. I've been told I know a little about SharePoint. A couple of years ago, I was selected into the global top 50 most influential for SharePoint. You can find me on the speaker circuit at a lot of the regional SharePoint events, and in my copious free time, I run the Federal SharePoint User Group, which includes Women in SharePoint DC and Loudoun County Productivity Groups. I bring that up because we have an all-day workshop coming up on the 29th of this month where we'll be going hands-on and teaching how to rapidly create solutions on this platform. We'll provide the link for that to the attendees. You can sign up if you want. It's free. The only thing you have to do is bring yourself and a laptop. We provide lunch, diet sodas, and everything else required. So what is the problem? More and more, anybody who thinks that there's not a mass migration to the cloud has missed something. Everybody's going to the cloud, primarily for cost saving, reduce their infrastructure footprint, and so forth. And that's not a bad thing. It's cheaper, easier, faster. But the cloud does have some limitations. First and foremost, there's no good solution for records management in the cloud. Collabware is supposed to come out end of this year with their Office 365 product, and rumor has it AvePoint is working on an Office 365 solution for records. But right now, they're not out there. So if you're bound by either National Archives and Records Administration regulations or DoD 5015.2 compliance, you're going to be forced into a hybrid environment where you stay on-prem for records and so forth and move everything else to the cloud. In that type of hybrid environment, connecting on-prem and Office 365 is not always easy or straightforward. When you get into synchronizing your accounts and profiles and so forth, it gets kind of kludgy, and you can solve it, but developers are expensive. Now, please don't take that as I don't like developers. We like developers, but I prefer to have the developers working on the real hard things and not doing the, the nickel dime stuff. Building out an enterprise application Office 365 is somewhat limited because you can no longer do a full trust solution. You can't approach it like you used to with a .NET developer deploying a WSP as a full trust solution. You have to go with the app model. The app model has some limitations. You can do client side with JavaScript, but you can't really get into the enterprise level heavy lift applications like you could in the old days. It's difficult, and more importantly for most folks, it's expensive. And then SharePoint has a few issues that come up, and you'll hear these both in today's talk and as well as in the workshop. There's terms in SharePoint that everybody should know. First is boundaries. Those are an absolute. You can't exceed a boundary. That's a design choice by Microsoft, so that's a brick wall. You hit it, you're stuck. Limits, they're kind of like speed limits on 95. You can exceed them, but at your own risk. And if you exceed them and run into problems, you pay the price. The ones that come up very frequently is something known as the list view threshold, which is 5,000 items per view, or the admin view threshold, which again is 5,000 items per view. If you hit that and go to 5,003, your list will no longer render. You can't see it. Now you can get away around that by some sleight of hand with views and querying and indexing and so forth. But if you're in a situation where you need to be able to pull up the entire client list or customer list or something like that, you can't do it. Now, where does this come in? The Coras platform, and we'll go into a little bit of the architecture, but we're not going to get too deep into that. We get around those because we're not built on the same platform. We embed into anything SharePoint, wherever SharePoint is, but we also have our own platform, which is based on a Mongo database, and we don't have those 5,000 item per view issues like the others do. Now, are we going to be stuck in a hybrid world for a while? According to some of the leading experts, and I just pulled this down off of LinkedIn, he had an article in Government Computer News. He's much smarter and more senior than I am. He's over at DXC Technology, and he's predicting for at least 5 years we're going to be a hybrid world, primarily because a lot of people have a very large investment and a lot of applications were built out in the 2010, 2013 environments that are simply too big, too hard, too heavy, can't go to the cloud. So those are staying on-prem while the other stuff moves up to the cloud. And I've seen this a lot with the customers I've worked with over the last several years. So in a hybrid scenario, where does this thing called Coras fit? We're smack in the middle between SharePoint or SharePoint Online, but we're not limited to just SharePoint. We could plug into SQL data, Salesforce, we do on-prem Office 365. You can use our platform completely by itself without Salesforce or SharePoint, or you can take our platform and embed it into any of those. All depends on what you want, how you want to run your process, and what your users are comfortable with. We're based on a hub and spoke modular architecture where I can plug in my data sources. The Coras managed data Coras Manage handles the data structures, and your existing data, you don't have to go in and change your SharePoint world or anything to plug into ours. Ours will plug into yours as they are. And this gives you the ability to grow, change, and evolve as the organization decides we need something better, we need to improve this process, or our business has changed. So a little easier way of looking at this is you use the CorasNow platform in between SharePoint and Office 365 to deliver your enterprise applications, which are being supported by Coras Manage. So your documents and your data come from Office 365 or SharePoint. We don't try and replace the things that SharePoint does well. We can store documents in our environment, but SharePoint's already got all the versioning and retention policies and everything like that. So probably better to leave that in SharePoint than just aggregate and develop the business process on our platform while your source content stays put. So the scenario for what we've got and what we're going to show today, we have a company that is 100% SharePoint on-prem. Their support requests are growing and are rapidly approaching the 5,000 item limit. So the plan has moved the support requests to CorasNow to get around that 5,000 threshold limit in SharePoint. But we've got a large investment in SharePoint that we want to keep, and we want to move that to the cloud because that lowers cost, reduces our server infrastructure footprint, and all the good things that Office 365 bring. So we're going to move some of our content up to the cloud. That's going to be the customers and contacts list. But because our support guides on our SLA agreements, which are contractual in nature, fall under compliance regulations for records management and so forth, those are going to stay on-prem to support the records management capability. So that's kind of what we're building into. What we're hoping to go to is this, where SLA agreements and support guides are on-prem, customer and contact lists are in Office 365, and we're managing all the support requests in the CorasNow environment. Now, if that customer list or contacts list starts getting close to the 5K limit, we can move those over into the CorasNow platform relatively easily to get around the 5,000 item limit. So, as one of my old bosses said, I can make anything work in PowerPoint. It's magic. So, we're going to go live now. Hopefully, there's a couple of members from FedSpug that are on the thing, and every time they're here, the demo crashes, but I won't name names. So what will I see? What am I going to do? First, we're going to go in and look at the user interface, including things like the query capability, the reporting capability. We'll create a new support ticket, update it, manage it, change the status, and so forth. And then we'll actually jump over from kind of how I run a business process through this system to how does it look like, what do I have to do if I want to adjust it or build it, and that's called the design canvas. And we'll actually modify the interface. We'll do this live. Rather than have me just tell you it's easy and fast, we'll show you exactly what it takes to change this. So we'll create a new tab to host an executive dashboard that your boss has decided they want. And maybe the boss doesn't like one of the charts that's in there, so we'll go in and change that the chart. For anybody that's a big fan of Salesforce, when it comes to changing the colors in your charts, go ahead and try that in Salesforce. We'll look at some of the other components in the design canvas, and then we'll look at the part where the developers can do their magic, because we still love developers, but we want them doing solving the hard problems, not going and saying make this button a different color or change this layout. Let the developers do the really hard, innovative stuff. But the big takeaway from looking at the design canvas is this is something that your business analysts, once they're trained up on, can do. Oops. So what we're looking at now is the CorasNow platform embedded. This is on our on-prem environment, and as you'll notice when we go to the Office 365 or whichever, it's different environments, but it all looks the same. And so I can take the application that I built and embed it directly into SharePoint. And this is when we refer to provider-hosted application. The application is actually running in our environment, but we grab the application ID, we insert the link, and it's there. So all the goodness and all the other stuff that you're used to running in SharePoint is still there, but you don't have to go, your interface stays the same, everything is good there. Let me shift to my other tab. Apologize, working on two screens here. So we're going to go directly into this from our platform, and looks just like what it looks like when I embedded this into SharePoint. And so get my notes of what we want to show. So the user interface is fairly straightforward, but it's very configurable. If you don't like the layout, you can change it. It's relatively easy. So in this case, let's go ahead and create a support ticket. My rendering is getting a little off. I hope that's showing up better. Somehow oops. I've lost my mouse. Hold on. See, I knew if Rob was on, this would happen. And I do, in my descriptions field, you'll notice I do have full rich text capability. I can embed links. I can bold it, change it, do whatever I want to. I can select who I'm going to assign it to. The assign to is coming from our environment. This could just as easily come from your profile database or your Active Directory. So you can do it there however you want to do it. Priority, due date, we'll pick a, so it's due tomorrow. Category is coming from our environment. Customer is coming from Office 365. And my SLAs are coming from my on-prem. And so as you can see, synchronizing and integrating those two separate environments into our centralized application is relatively easy. And so I've created a new service ticket. Now if I need to go in and reassign or update, I select something and I can reassign, update, or view the support request. I can go in and filter very rapidly, and this is all something that I can configure through the design canvas. I also have built-in reporting capability with the charting. This is part of our product, and you'll notice this is clickable, so I can drill down into these. I've got some of these that just have a little too much information, and I have the ability, regardless of where I go, to either export it to PDF, export it to Excel, and this is true of across everything that we do in this environment. So let's quickly look at what's known as the design canvas, or another way to think of this is my business process visualization. Here you notice the same tabs that you see across the top. This is all drag and drop or click and add. So we're going to add one and call it the executive dashboard. I'm not going to put any text. I can change how I want it. Charts, pick a data source if I want. I'm just going to leave these blank for right now. And I can security trim this if I need to and see who's going to go through now. For the most part, this is going to take the SharePoint or .NET security model that's already in place. If something is secured through SharePoint, everything we do respects that. So if I hit publish, that should have gone back. The joys of doing this live and being new. And there it is. So there's my new dashboard, and I can go back and configure those however I want. So when we say this is easy enough for, you know, a retired Navy guy to figure out, it really is. Now, I can go in and add my data sources. In this case, I've got my documents, which we're pulling from the on-prem, and I can go in and add if I need to add from Salesforce or SQL data or something like that. We've already got those connectors built. In theory, anything that's got a published API we can connect to. We haven't built a connector for everything just because we haven't had a need for it yet, but it can be. I can look at my different views. So if I want a screen that's different than the other, I can build my views. Now, one of the things that is a key takeaway from here, years ago, a government agency by the name of Defense Threat Reduction Agency, we built a task management tool for them. And the director was really happy because after it rolled out, he noticed that there's no overdue taskers. Now, it was built 100% on SharePoint. It wasn't that the taskers weren't overdue. The action officers had figured out if they can go in and update the status, they can also change the due date. So, and that's what was happening. With the views in this paradigm, I decide what you're going to see. So if I want you to be able to update the status but not the due date, we just don't expose due date as part of what the view you're going to see. And then we can decide who's going to see what. I can also build out full applications like this, and so when you come into the environment, it picks up who you are and redirects you. That approach is known as a single page application, and basically sends you to that page where you're going to get those things that you're allowed to. So you can take that with a little bit of tweaking and configuration and build your external facing portal for your external customers, and they're only going to see that information that you're exposing to them and the ability to only change those things that you want them to change, but you're hiding the rest of it from them. I can create my forms. This is relatively straightforward for form filler design and putting in what's going to go where. I want to save that. I want to go down to the charts. We're going to update the chart by category chart. Now in this type, we're going to change that. Maybe the boss doesn't like pie charts. They like funnels. So we change it to a funnel. And I can go in and say, I don't want it to be that big. We want it to be kind of small. And then I want to say, maybe I want to enable crosshairs, which just allows it to zero in a little bit better. And now the part that if you're a Salesforce person, go ahead and try and change the colors in Salesforce. I'm really bad at applying colors. So we're going to save that. And so now when I go back to look at what we just did, there's my updated chart. I've got my new tab. And very, very easy. Now, that was no smoke and mirrors. That was live. And actually, my very first time of trying to do this live, and it didn't crash. Now, earlier I mentioned, think of this as your business process modernization component. If you can think of your business processes kind of in a step-by-step or swim lane type thing, if you can draw those out in a use case, you can build them out in here. Behind this, you have something in our platform known as the Actions Framework. For the developers side of it, or the folks that have done SharePoint for a long time, think of those as event handlers, where I can embed those as they're already pre-built. So I can put something on there and say, and add an action to it, reassign this support ticket, change the due date, notify the action officer they're overdue, things of that nature. And in the past, what I've done is we've used the action framework to actually change the list item, update the metadata. Then we have SharePoint Designer workflows that are triggered by the metadata change. So I can combine my workflows that get triggered off of this, and that works either way. And that's something we're going to be going into in great detail on the July 29th webinar. So with that, I'm going to see if I can shift back to slideshow. I'm not good at GoToMeeting and shifting between screens and everything. It's really bad when a technology guy can't do technology. So from what you just saw, where is this different as compared to taking your average business analyst or functional analyst who could work in the design canvas to build something, or the old school approach of let's get a .NET developer or a SharePoint developer and open up Visual Studio. Ours is all drag and drop development. You just click here, add a tab, click here, add an action, drag it over here. You don't like where that tab is, you drag it to where you want it to. It connects into the existing systems. You can either build new applications using this, or you can extend your existing applications. I could have just as easily linked into the documents library and created a fairly robust document routing and approval system using the CorasNow platform and the Actions framework. For those that have done task management tool or Cadence in the past, again, very similar. You can build solutions that rival those at much faster, much lower cost. Now, I promised I would show what the architecture looks like. I know we have a lot of folks on the line that are more business oriented, so I don't want to get into a lot of technobabble because that's just going to make people's eyes glaze over. If you want to do, if you're interested in going into a technical deep dive in this, please reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to do that. We can go into the gory techie details of what all these are. But the key takeaway from here is down at the persistence layer with the databases, we can, we run on Mongo and we can pull in from pretty much any external data source. We've got connectors, whether it's through a RESTful API, OData, SOAP, and so forth. And so, but I said I wasn't going to I'll nerd herd on that, so we'll just leave it at that. So you're probably wondering, what am I looking at now? Now you notice what doesn't pop up right off the bat is you're looking at two completely different environments. You're looking at on-prem and you're looking at the cloud environment with this mashup in between. And it's two completely different environments, but they don't look different, and that's the point. So regardless of where I go, I have a consistent user experience. Now, the user also has an option. If I'm the person responsible for updating the customers list or the task list, I can do it in the CorasNow platform, and that feeds back into SharePoint. Or if I'm comfortable just working in SharePoint, I can work in SharePoint, and that feeds into CorasNow. So it really doesn't matter where I want to do my work because it's synchronous, bidirectional, updating both ends at the same time. So this provider-hosted application, let me just, I don't know if I explained that really clearly. A provider-hosted application is an application running in an external platform to Office 365 that I embed in. In this case, it's the CorasNow platform that we've simply embedded into Office 365. So where's the value in it to you? First off, you can shorten the cycle time to deployment for your business apps. It's a lot easier, a lot more visual, a lot faster. And instead of looking at all this weird .NET coding stuff to try and figure out what you're doing, you're using a graphical layout. This increases the return on investment for what you've already spent for SharePoint. A lot of folks have SharePoint, but not a lot of folks have SharePoint done well. I've been in a number of environments where SharePoint is nothing more than a network, web-enabled network file share, but it has a lot more. But it's too hard, it's too complicated, developers are too expensive, so they just use it for network file share. This enables you to, because I can do it easier, faster, cheaper, now you can achieve your strategic goals and vision by delivering solutions that align to where you want to be. Now, when it comes to is provider-hosted applications the way to go, don't believe me. I've included the link and we'll share this. This is Microsoft guidance on guidance for developing and hosting your SharePoint add-ins. This is where Microsoft says to you, provider-hosted applications for these big things. So what did you just see? You saw seamless integration across coming from both a hybrid and an on-prem, excuse the typo in there, but I've plopped something down right in between my Office 365 and my on-prem that runs my business application. It eases your path to the cloud. You can start moving to the cloud and don't have to worry about your really complicated enterprise applications that you spent millions on for custom development. You know, we give you a way to get to the cloud without necessarily having to recode everything. To a large degree, it future-proofs your investment in the cloud. Now, when I say future-proof, if you've been around SharePoint and went through the 2007 to 2010, 2010 to 2013, 2013 to 2016, the one thing that you'll remember fondly is that while Microsoft didn't lie, they just changed the truth a lot. You know, build it all in Silverlight. Silverlight's the future. Oh, wait, never mind. Recode everything from Silverlight into HTML5. Build everything in InfoPath. Oh, wait, no, get rid of InfoPath. Go rebuild it in this. It seems like with every major version release, I have to recode all my custom applications. So when I say we future-proof it, building it in our platform, as long as the data source doesn't change, our platform doesn't care. You can go from 2010 to 2013 to 2016. As long as the URL is the same, it's just going to keep on working. If it does change, then I simply go into the design canvas, and where it says data sources, I update the connector string and put the updated URL. I can do that in about 45 seconds, which is a whole lot faster and cheaper than recoding a custom application. It provides a flexible user interface, and the users can come in from whatever entry point they're comfortable in working with. So if they're used to working in their SharePoint list on the on-prem environment, they can do that, or they can work in our environment, or both if they so choose. But across that spectrum, we provide the common user experience to deliver a single source of truth. When I've seen hybrid environments in the past, because of the replication issue of trying to keep things synchronized between the Office 365 and the on-prem environment, what I've generally seen is a lot of people replicating or copying back and forth, whether buying a high-end replication tool like the Metalogix or AvePoint tool to do it, which is, I don't want to say it's stupid, but it's not smart. So our approach, your source data stays where it is. It becomes a single source of truth, and we pull it forward, manipulate it, massage it, and apply the business process to it, and then go from there. And we build the suit. If you don't like your application, you can change your application. It's very easy to tweak. Now, we had somebody the other day tell us that's a scary proposition. He didn't want everybody with the ability to go in and change things. He saw it as a configuration management nightmare. That's not a technical issue. That's a policy issue and governance. And quite frankly, it depends on, if you go in and assign everybody in your organization with admin rights and designer access, you're going to get that. But realistically, most people in your organization would be a user, and a very limited amount of people would have admin rights to go in and design. So you control your configuration by access. So what's the bottom line of this? You can turn your business analysts on your staff into your very own in-house app factory to rapidly and deploy the solutions that you need, because your in-house staff knows your processes and procedures and policies a lot better than I as a consultant ever will. And they know better what it is. And from a cost and resource perspective, business analysts are a lot cost more effective than .NET developers. It's not to say we love us some developers, but they're expensive. So why Coras? It's a bit of a paradigm change. You've probably heard, if you've gone through PMP training, the old say of good, cheap, or fast, pick two. We're changing that paradigm. You can get all three now. because we can do this 1/5 the time at half the cost. Rapid prototyping. We support an agile methodology. We've done this enough for enough customers. We've got templates that can get for a quick start. It's a low-code environment. I mean, you can go do external CSS and inject JavaScript if you feel like you absolutely have to, but you don't have, but it's not required. You can maintain and extend this with your existing staff. And I always get asked the question, how long does it take to train on this for me to get smart? The last time I did training on this platform, we did it over a Saturday workshop. We spent the morning going over installation, configuration, and management, and then started building solutions in the afternoon. And by the end of the day, 3:30, 4 o'clock, people were able to build their own solutions. Now, it's not going to turn them into a screaming ninja, but it's going to get them up and running and started. So the training aspect is very, very low. And you do have the course support. We support multiple versions of SharePoint from 2007 to Office 365 and everything in between. There's no special security administration. It consumes and adheres to the SharePoint.NET security. And it's easier, faster, cheaper. And so what it gives you, your interactive dashboards. We can do PMO and fully interactive Gantt. Your reporting and your forms, workflow through the action framework. Comes with pre-configured templates and a mobile capability. So next steps, we'd love to hear what pain points you have. What problems are you trying to solve? What problems have you not been able to solve? What problems have been too expensive to solve? Reach out to us. Let's talk about it. If we're a good fit, great. If we're not a good fit, I'll be the first one to tell you we're not a good fit for you. But I think by and large we should be. And then my contact information, and again, I'm sure we'll get this information out to all the attendees. And so with that, I'm going to give it back over to Mark for questions.
Yep, exactly right. Thank you, Mack. Thank you for taking the time to walk us through that presentation and demonstration. Well done. So we've had a few questions come in, and it looks like we have a little bit of time that we can address some of them. So I'll take this first one. I had a couple people asking if the presentation would be available or if we were recording today's session. And yes, we recorded, and we also can make the presentation available in a PDF format. You will receive an email tomorrow, probably about the same time tomorrow, with a link to the recording. So you'll be able to access it through that link. You can share it with colleagues, family, friends, whomever you would like. So look for that within the next 24 hours. All right, now these next ones I cannot handle, Mack, so I'm going to feed them over to you. So I had one question that said the scenario that you demonstrated was leveraging SharePoint on-prem and Office 365. And the question was, do I have to use both? Can I just use the solution with Office 365 by itself or with the on-prem by itself?
Like most questions in SharePoint, the answer is yes, maybe. There's 28 different ways to do that. What do I have to use this? I could do this with just Office 365, just on-prem. I built most of the solutions, to be quite honest, over my career. I've built on a single environment where I'm delivering a business process or process flow. And so the ability to pull in from these different environments is relatively new. Now, it can run on the Coras Managed platform that we host, but say you're on a secured enclave like my customer out in Phoenix was, or you're on CIPRNet or something like that, you can load CorasNow into your environment on top of your SharePoint environment there. So pretty much any scenario you can think of, we support. We can be loaded, we can exist in the cloud, we can be deployed on-prem, we can connect to one SharePoint environment or multiple SharePoint environments. And if you're in, I don't know if I have any of the AFS folks on which had multiple SharePoint environments, this could go in one spot and connect those multiple SharePoint environments if you have something like that. I hope that answers the question.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Mack. All right, so here's another one that talks about the amount of records. So there was a reference to a 5,000 record limit in SharePoint. Is there any record limit or data limit to the CorasNow product?
None that are known. The MongoDB environment, which underlies our environment, doesn't have those limits, and it's I'm getting a little outside my depth here on the database stuff, but it's actually faster than SQL and can handle a lot more transactions and a lot bigger load faster. But there's no known item limit in the MongoDB.
All right, excellent. So here was one about the designing of the applications that you were doing earlier, Mack, and it was around permissions and security. Obviously, you wouldn't want any of your users or all of your users to go in and do that. How do we leverage permissions and security to lock that down?
That's through security trimming. I can decide who's going to see what views, what screens, which then limits that. As far as getting into design canvas, to a certain degree, that's very similar to SharePoint, where if this was SharePoint, I would have most of the folks as a member or a contributor where they can read, write, add, update, and so forth, but they don't have design or full admin rights. So I simply limit who's got admin level access into the system or design level, where most people would be more in the contributor or member role.
Excellent. And kind of along those lines as well, within an application, you're able to assign roles as well. So like you would have a contributor and a reviewer and an approver and things like that who would all see different views of the data based on who they were, correct?
Yes, and I can security trim the tabs. So as you saw, when I added the executive dashboard, for example, I could security trim that. So if you were part of the executive group, when you go onto that page, you see it. If you're not part of the executive group, you don't. And so
all right.
the buttons and the tabs can all be security trimmed.
All right, fantastic. So that's it for the questions. If you're still on the line and you have additional questions or you want to take a deeper dive, we'll certainly be happy to do that with you offline. And thank you again for joining us today, for spending the better part of an hour with us. We know you have a lot of competing priorities in your day, and we're very appreciative that you chose to spend the last hour with us. Again, there were some next steps that Mack put up there. We'd be happy to go deeper, talk more about any aspects of the presentation or the demo that Mack delivered today. So Mack, thank you again. Everyone who is on the line, thank you so much, and have a great day.